should start by saying this. Hiking at night was never part of the plan, but sometimes one small decision, one stupid shortcut, becomes the reason you carry a memory you can never forget. This happened 2 years ago when I joined two friends, Mark and Lila, for a weekend hike in the northern mountains. It was supposed to be a simple 2-day trail. Fresh air, silence, a break from work. We started early, laughing and talking like people who believed nothing bad could ever happen to them. Looking back, I think the forest was quiet in a way it shouldn't have been by the time the sun started going down. We were still about 3 miles from our planned campsite. Mark suggested a shortcut trail he found on some hikers forum. "It's fine," he said. "People use this all the time." But the moment we stepped onto it, I felt something shift. The path was narrow, with trees bending inward like they were leaning to listen. Every sound echoed weirdly, the crunch of our boots, the zip of our backpacks, even our breaths. I whispered to Lila, "Doesn't this feel off?" She nodded. "Yeah, like someone's watching." I laughed it off, because that's what you do when you don't want to seem paranoid. But I kept glancing behind us. We'd been walking for maybe 20 minutes when I heard it. A fourth set of footsteps, slow, dragging a beat behind ours. I stopped. Mark stopped too, annoyed. "What now?" "Did you hear that?" I asked. "Hear what?" But before I could even explain, the footsteps stopped too. Not a second later, at the exact same moment, we froze. Lila whispered, "Guys, someone else. It's here." Mark rolled his eyes, but checked behind us anyway. And the trail was empty, completely empty. Just trees, shadows, nothing moving. He shrugged it off, probably echoing. "Sound travels weird out here." We continued, but slower, and then it happened again. Crunch, crunch, just behind us. This time, all 3 of us heard it. When we turned around for a split second, I swear I saw something shift behind a tree, like someone pulling back. We sped up, no talking, just walking fast and breathing harder than we should have. Maybe 10 minutes later, we reached a wider part of the trail, and Mark exhaled. "Okay, see? No one's hello." "Okay." A voice came from behind us. We whipped around. A man stood in the middle of the narrow trail, not hiking toward us, just standing, like he'd been there the whole time. He looked around 50, tall, wearing an oversized gray jacket and a backpack that was way too small for him. His beard was uneven, like he cut it himself with a dull blade, but it was his eyes that froze me wide, unblinking, like he didn't know how to blink. Mark spoke first. "Hey man, you alright?" The stranger didn't answer immediately. He tilted his head slowly. Then he said, "You're going the wrong way." His voice was flat, empty. "To come?" Lila whispered. "What?" "You're going the wrong way," he repeated. "There are things up there." His eyes didn't leave us, not once. Mark forced a laugh. "Kay, thanks for the warning." Kay, when we moved to walk past him, he stepped aside, not to give us space, but to block the trail. "You shouldn't go up," he murmured. His voice dropped lower. "You won't come back down." I didn't know why, but every instinct in my body screamed one thing. "Do not stay near this man," Mark whispered. "Let's go around him." We stepped off the trail and pushed through the brush, avoiding eye contact, and he didn't follow. Not yet, but I kept glancing back, and every time, he was still standing there, still staring. The forest got darker fast. Within minutes, we needed our flashlights. Every beam of light seemed to create more shadows than it removed. I kept replaying the man's warning in my head. "You won't come back down." It was ridiculous. Somehow, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a prediction. 20 minutes later, as we were climbing a steep hill, my flashlight brushed over the trees behind us, and I dropped it because the man was there, standing halfway up the hill, not moving, not climbing, just there, close enough that if we'd turned around sooner, it would have been in our light. "How the hell?" Mark gasped. "We need to move," I said. No one disagreed. We practically ran the last stretch until we reached our planned campsite, a flat clearing with a few old fire pits. The air felt heavy, like even the wind had stopped to listen. We barely got the tent up before we heard it again. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Leaves, twigs, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. Leela whispered. He followed us. He actually followed us. Grabbed a long branch from the fire pit and held it like a weapon. My hands were shaking. Mark yelled into the darkness, "Hey, stop following us." No answer, but the footsteps stopped, right outside the glow of our flashlights, just out of view, like he knew exactly where the light fell. The next 30 minutes were some of the longest of my life. We sat inside the tent, flashlights off, barely, breathing, listening. Every tiny sound felt amplified. At one point, Lila whispered, "Do you hear that?" I did. Not footsteps, breathing, a slow, wet breathing sound. Inches from the tent, Mark mouthed silently, "Stay still," with the breathing. Got louder, then something dragged around the tent, circling it. A finger, or something like a finger, brushed the fabric near my shoulder. I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw hurt. Then the man whispered, right outside our tent, "You shouldn't have come up here." I felt my entire body go cold. He dragged something across the tent wall, maybe a stick, maybe a knife, I couldn't tell, but it traced the outline of where I sat. Then the sound stopped. No footsteps, walking away, no breathing, just silence. We waited until sunrise before stepping outside. The forest looked normal again. Birds chirping, sunlight breaking through branches, everything almost peaceful, but the ground told a different story. Footprints, deep, heavy footprints, circling our tent over and over. More than a dozen loops. And on the other side of the clearing, another set of prints, like he'd been pacing back and forth, watching, waiting. Mark scanned the trees. Where did he go? But he wasn't anywhere. No trail, no broken branches. Leading out, it was like he vanished. Then Leela gasped and pointed at the tent fabric. There were marks, not slashes, not cuts, words. Something had been written against the fabric from the outside. It's pressed hard enough that the dirt on his fingers left stains. 7 letters. Go back down. We packed everything in minutes. When we reached the base of the mountain, we ran into a ranger station. I told the ranger everything. The man, the footprints, the whispering, the warning. The ranger frowned. "There's no one else up there," he said. "No registered hikers. No locals." Mark insisted. "We saw him. He followed us." The ranger looked troubled. "Last year, a man went missing on that trail. Gray jacket, mid-50s. We searched for 3 weeks. Never found a body." I felt my stomach drop. The ranger continued. "People still report seeing him sometimes, staring, warning hikers not to go up. Always the same words. You won't come back down." We left without saying anything else. But there's something I still can't explain. The ranger told us the missing man had died in winter, but his footprints around our tent, they weren't boot prints. They were bare feet, wide, deep, human, and they never led away from our campsite, not in any direction. I need to be clear about something before I begin. I don't believe what I saw. I replay it every night, and it still feels impossible. But I know what I heard. I know what followed me. And I know what I saw at the end, no matter how much. I wish I did in single quotes. This happened last summer on Ridgepoint Trail, a quiet hiking route about 30 miles from my hometown. I go there whenever life gets overwhelming. It's peaceful, predictable, quiet, or at least it used to be. I started the hike around 5 p.m., knowing I'd reach the lookout point right before sunset. I've done this trail dozens of times. It usually takes less than 2 hours. But that day, something was different. The forest was too still. Even the wind felt muted, like the trees were holding their breath. About 20 minutes in, I noticed a hiker up ahead, a woman. She wore a bright red jacket, impossible to miss. She walked fast, almost urgently, her arms stiff at her sides. I didn't think much of it until I got closer. She wasn't following the trail. She was walking parallel to it, in a perfectly straight line through uneven terrain. No looking around, no checking her footing, no hesitation, just walking. I called out, "Hey, you okay?" She didn't react, not a flinch, not even a tilt of the head. I felt uneasy, but I kept moving. I wish I'd turned back right then. The sun began sinking behind the ridge. Long shadows stretched across the trail like fingers reaching out. I kept hearing something behind me. Footsteps, exactly, more like leaves brushing in rhythm with my pace. I turned back multiple times. Nothing, but every time I started walking again, the sound resumed. Crunch, brush, stop, crunch, brush, stop, like someone was matching my steps with a half-second delay. I tried to shake off the feeling. Maybe it was an animal. Maybe my mind was messing with me, but the forest felt aware, like it was watching me. I picked up my pace when I reached the switchback leading to the lookout. I froze. The woman in the red jacket was standing there, facing the woods, not moving, not acknowledging me like she'd been waiting. I swallowed. "Hey, are you lost?" She turned her head a little, not fully, just enough that I could see her cheek, and she whispered, "You saw me." Her voice was wrong, not broken or raspy, just wrong, like she was forcing out sounds she wasn't used to making. I stepped back. What? She didn't turn fully. She didn't move her arms or legs, only her head. "You saw me," she repeated, "when you weren't supposed to." A cold rush went through my entire body. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt locked. Then, without warning, she walked straight into the trees, not down the trail, okay? Not around any obstacles, straight through thick brush. Branches should have snapped. Leaves should have rustled. Nothing made a sound. Nothing. She simply disappeared into the forest. I should have run, but I stood there, frozen, staring at the spot where she vanished. Then, something whispered behind me, a soft, breathy sound, closer. I spun around, flashlight raised. No one was there. The air suddenly felt colder. The shadows looked deeper. The trees seemed to press inward. The forest was changing, like it was slowly pulling itself shut around me. I forced myself to keep moving toward the lookout point. I needed open space. I needed out of the trees. But the closer I got, the more wrong everything felt. I heard footsteps beside me, but not on the trail, in the trees, keeping pace. Too close, it's too slow. Then a voice, farther away this time, whispered, "You saw me." I started running. Branches whipped my arms. Rocks shifted under my feet. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. But something else was running too. Not behind me, not beside me, above me. In the trees, fast, too fast. I reached the lookout point, a wide cliff overlooking the valley, and spun around, gasping for air. The forest line was still, quiet, calm for a moment. I thought I'd imagined everything. Then she stepped out, the woman in the red jacket. Her movements were jagged now, like each limb was being pulled by invisible strings. She tilted her head again, just slightly, and whispered, "You weren't supposed to see me." I stepped back toward the cliff edge. "There are other people on this trail." I lied. "Someone's coming." She blinked slowly, most mechanically. "No, one comes when I walk," she whispered, and then her face changed. Not fully, not like in movies, slightly. Her smile stretched a little too far. Eyes widened without blinking. Her cheek twitched like someone was tugging on invisible threads beneath her skin. "You saw me," she whispered, "so I have to follow." She stepped forward. One step, pause. Another step, pause. She wasn't walking right. Her legs moved stiffly, like she wasn't used to controlling them. I held out my hands. Please, stop. She did instead. She whispered something so soft I barely caught it. Return me. Didn't understand then, but I do now. As she moved closer, the temperature dropped sharply. My breath fogged the air. Her shadow hit the ground in a strange way, thin and stretched, like it didn't match her body. I stepped back. My heel slipped. I was inches from the cliff edge. She stopped walking, but her shadow didn't. Her shadow kept approaching, stretching toward me, reaching. I froze in horror as it touched my shoe. The cold that shot up my leg felt like stepping into ice water. And then a branch snapped behind her. Both of us turned. Another hiker had arrived at the lookout. A man, in his late 50s, carrying a large backpack. He paused. Hey, you guys all right? The woman in red shifted, not turned, not reacted. She simply flickered, like a glitch in reality. In the next second, she was gone. No walking away, no sound, just gone. The man asked, "Who were you talking to?" My voice cracked. You didn't see her? See who? My legs felt weak. Red jacket. She was right here. He frowned, confused and concerned. There's no one else on this trail. Parking lot was empty when I came up. I didn't say anything after that. He walked me back down the trail, talking the whole time to keep me grounded. But partway down, he stopped abruptly. What's that? He pointed at the trees. A red jacket hung neatly over a branch, clean, dry, perfectly placed, like someone had set it there an hour ago. We didn't touch it. We didn't say anything. We just kept walking. 2 days later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched online for missing hikers in Ridgepoint Forest. I wasn't ready for what I found. 3 years earlier, a woman around my age had gone missing on that same trail, hiking alone. Last seen wearing a red jacket. Search parties never found a body, just her backpack. And one witness, another hiker, reported seeing her shortly before she vanished. His statement was short but chilling. She wasn't walking like a normal person. She kept repeating something under her breath. Something like, "You saw me. I never went back to Ridgepoint Trail." But sometimes, late at night, in the quiet moments when the world feels thin, I swear I hear her voice again. Soft, breathy, too close. Return me. I've done solo hikes for years, but this one still bothers me when I try to sleep, 'cause I'm not sure I ever came back alone. It happened during a late October backpacking trip in the Canadian Rockies. I took a long route that most hikers skip because it gains nearly 4,000 feet in the last 6 miles. The air gets thin, the trees disappear, and when the wind hits the cliffs, it makes this low, moaning sound that feels almost alive. Most people camp near the lake below, but I wanted a view. I always do. I didn't plan on staying near any shelters, because I always bring my own tent. But on the second day, the weather shifted without warning. Thick clouds rolled in from the west, swallowing the sun. By mid-afternoon, the temperature dropped close to freezing, and strong gusts started pushing ice pellets at me sideways. I wasn't scared yet, until my trail disappeared. Not faded, not covered, it's gone. A slope of broken rock replaced the path, and visibility dropped so quickly I could barely see more than a few feet. I kept moving uphill, hoping to find a ridge or landmark that matched my map. But nothing looked familiar. The wind kept howling long, steady wails like distant voices. Around 5 p.m., with daylight fading fast and temperatures sinking even lower, I finally accepted I needed shelter. Any shelter. That's when I saw it, a dark shape in the distance, squared edges, a roofline, a cabin. The moment I spotted it, the wind seemed to ease, almost like the mountain itself was nudging me in that direction. I thought I'd gotten lucky. I hadn't. It didn't look abandoned. That was my first impression. Small, maybe 12 by 12 feet, made of weathered gray planks that looked old but sturdy. No sign of rot, no collapsed roof, no broken windows. Most old hiking cabins are falling apart. This one wasn't, but something felt off. It sat alone on a barren patch of rock, miles above any official trail, with no path leading to it. Footprints, no evidence anyone had ever maintained it. And I'd studied maps obsessively before the trip. There were no structures marked anywhere near this ridge. Still, the cold made the decision for me. I knocked on the door out of habit, even though I knew no one would be here. No answer. I pushed. The door opened slowly. Inside, it was cleaner than a mountain shelter had any right to be. A wooden table, a single chair, cot with wool blankets folded neatly, and a small iron stove already stacked with wood, like someone had been expecting to return soon. I shut the door behind me and felt instinctive relief of being out of the storm. I didn't light a fire. There was enough warmth from being out of the wind, but I took off my pack and sat on the cot to eat something. That's when I first noticed it. There was no dust, not on the shelves, not on the table, not even under the cot. Cabins this high up are rarely used. They get dirty. Animals break in. Weather ruins the floors. Something always leaves a trace. But this place looked maintained, as if someone had walked out minutes before I arrived. The feeling of creeping unease settled in my stomach, and I told myself it was exhaustion. A long day, thin air, bad weather. I'd think more clearly after resting. I tried to relax, but I kept glancing at the door because the wind outside sounded different here, as if something was pacing slowly around the cabin. Around 7 p.m., darkness swallowed the outside completely. No moon, no stars, just thick blackness and the sound of the storm pressing against the walls. COULD in single quotes, because 15 minutes after I laid down, I heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Slow footsteps. Outside. Circling. At first, I froze, thinking maybe an animal had smelled my food. But the steps were too steady, too heavy, and they moved with an unmistakably human rhythm. I sat up, heart pounding. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Silence. Then, 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Not frantic, not aggressive. It's patient. I didn't move. I didn't answer. A minute passed. Then 2. Then, more footsteps. Walking away. Except, they didn't fade into the distance. They circled the cabin again, like someone was inspecting it. At one point, something brushed against the back wall. A shadow crossed a single window, and I swear so I heard someone whisper, "You're early." My skin went cold. I hadn't spoken a single word since arriving. I hadn't made a fire. I hadn't done anything to attract attention. So who was talking? And why did they sound calm? I stayed perfectly still. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but the storm outside was too dangerous. If I left now, blind in the dark, I might walk straight off a cliff. Minutes passed. No more footsteps. No more whispers. Eventually, the exhaustion won. I drifted into a light, uneasy sleep. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. I woke to silence. Not calm silence and natural silence. The wind had stopped completely. Not slowed. Stopped. Cabins creak in stillness. With shifts, air moves. But this place felt vacuum sealed, like sound itself had been drained from the air. I opened my eyes and froze. Someone was standing at the foot of the cot. A silhouette, tall, still, facing me, so close I could hear faint breaths. I didn't move a muscle. I didn't even blink. The figure didn't react. It didn't speak. It just stood there in the darkness, like it was waiting for me to do something first. I slowly slid my hand toward my phone, which was near my pack on the floor. I didn't want to turn on the flashlight. It would reveal exactly where I was, but needed something. Anything. My thumb brushed the screen, lit up. In that split second of light, I saw a dash. Nothing. No figure. No shadow. No one standing by the bed, but the blankets near my feet were still slightly pressed down, as if someone had been leaning on them. The phone light flickered and died instantly. Battery, 64%. It didn't make sense. Then the footsteps returned. Inside the cabin, this time soft, slow, walking toward the door. Then stopping, as if whoever or whatever was there was listening. I didn't sleep again, not even for a moment. At dawn, I packed my gear in under 30 seconds. The storm had passed, and daylight filled the cabin with a pale gray glow. Everything looked normal, too normal. The blankets were neatly folded again. The wood by the stove was restacked. My footprints were gone, as if the place had reset itself overnight. I stepped outside. The air felt lighter, immediately, like the cabin had been holding something in. And now that I was out, it stayed trapped inside. I didn't look back. I found my way down the ridge quickly. The trail reappeared exactly where it should have been, as if it had never vanished. By the time I reached the lake, another hiker was setting up camp. He waved at me. "Rough night?" he asked, laughing. "Storm got you too?" "Yeah," I said, trying to sound normal. "Found a cabin up there." A smile dropped instantly. "There's no cabin above the tree line," he said. "I slept in it," I insisted. "Small place, wood stove, clean inside. Just west of the ridge." The hiker shook his head slowly. "There used to be a surveyor's shed up there 100 years ago, but it burned down in the 1970s after a hiker went missing inside it." Stomach tightened. "What happened to him?" He shrugged. "They never found the body. Only thing they found was his journal." "What did it say?" The hiker hesitated. "Just one line over and over again." He lowered his voice. "Someone kept knocking." I didn't respond. I couldn't, because the whole time he talked, I felt a cold spot on my back, as if someone was standing just behind me. And when I finally worked up the nerve to turn around, there was no one there, just the wind, just the trees. But part of me knows the truth. I didn't leave that cabin alone. Something followed me down the mountain, and sometimes late at night, when the room goes unnaturally quiet, I hear 3 slow knocks on my bedroom door. Knock, 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 knock. Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.